How many times have you lied today? Before you answer, consider this. Lying isn't always deliberate. Sometimes it's the silence you choose, the truth you postpone, the version of yourself you perform in front of others. Most people believe they are honest because they have spoken a direct falsehood, but deception doesn't need words. It hides in omission, in exaggeration, in the way we sidestep what's real to protect what's comfortable. This isn't just a moral dilemma, it's an existential one. From ancient Egypt to Vedic India, from Taoist China to the Greek mystery schools, truth was not a social contract. It was a spiritual law. The Maat of Egypt, goddess of truth and cosmic order, was said to weigh the heart of the dead against a single feather. If your heart was heavy with lies, you were devoured. In India's Satya Yuga, the age of truth, human beings lived in harmony with nature because deceit did not yet exist. In Taoism, false speech was believed to disrupt the natural rhythm of life, creating personal and collective disharmony. Even the Stoics, rational and pragmatic, warned that living in contradiction to truth created inner fragmentation. Epictetus taught that self-deception was the beginning of slavery. Modern science is catching up. Studies in neuropsychology show that lying activates the amygdala, triggering a stress response that physically drains the body. Over time, chronic deception, even minor, leads to anxiety, disconnection, and illness. But this isn't just about health. Words shape perception. Perception shapes reality. In nearly every origin story across civilizations, creation begins with sound. The Vedas call it Om. The Gospel of John calls it Logos. The Mayans believe that God spoke the world into being. If words can build worlds, what happens when we misuse them? We don't just lie to others, we fracture our own field of energy. We step out of alignment with the universe itself. So the question isn't just, have you lied today? The real question is, what kind of world are your words creating? And is it one you want to live in? Whispers of the lie. A journey back to the word. Let's begin with something uncomfortable. Most people lie far more than they think. Not just to others, but to themselves. According to a University of Massachusetts study, 60% of people lie at least once during a 10-minute conversation. That's 6 lies in 10 minutes. But here's the twist. Most of them don't realize they're lying. Why? Because not all lies wear the same face. Some lies are blatant statements that contradict known facts. Others are subtle, half-truths, strategic omissions, words chosen not to clarify, but to conceal. And the most dangerous kind are the lies we tell ourselves, justified, rationalized, buried under layers of self-preservation. But this isn't just a modern issue, it's ancient. Across civilizations, truth was seen as more than a virtue. It was a force of nature, a law embedded in the structure of the cosmos. In ancient Egypt, truth Maat wasn't optional. She governed everything from morality to mathematics. Pharaohs swore to uphold her. To violate Mawat was to invite chaos, not just politically, but cosmically. Your soul, at death, was weighed against her feather. If it was heavier, meaning burdened with deception, it was devoured by Ammit, the soul eater. Lying wasn't just unethical, it was spiritually lethal. In the Persian tradition of Zoroastrianism, the world is a battleground between Asha and Druj. Every act of speech either aligns with the light or contributes to the shadows. The Avesta, the sacred text, warns that lies weaken the world's fabric and strengthen Angra Mainyu, the destructive force. Even in the West, early Greek philosophers saw truth as foundational. Heraclitus spoke of logos, the rational, ordering principle of the universe. To lie was to fracture your alignment with logos, to sever your harmony with reality itself. Fast forward to the East. In Buddhism, right speech is part of the Noble Eightfold Path. One must avoid falsehood, not just to be kind, but to escape the illusions that entrap the mind. In Taoism, words are to be used sparingly and truthfully. The Tao flows in silence. False speech disturbs its natural rhythm. But this isn't just religious or mystical. Neuroscience tells a parallel story. When we lie, the brain must juggle conflicting realities. The truth, the fabricated version, and the monitoring of how that lie is perceived. This creates cognitive dissonance, measurable stress in the body. The amygdala is triggered. Cortisol rises. Over time, habitual lying reshapes brain pathways. The liar becomes alienated from their own inner compass. They stop recognizing the difference between reality and fiction, not just externally, but internally. There is also evidence that people who lie frequently experience more anxiety, poorer sleep, and weaker immune responses. It's as if the body itself resists falsehood. The lie is not just psychological, it's physiological, energetic, existential. So what does this mean? It means that lying isn't just wrong, it's unsustainable. We live in a universe built on alignment. The orbits of planets, the structure of DNA, the symmetry of sacred geometry, all these reflect a deeper order. To lie is to step out of that order. To speak words not aligned with your reality is to tear the thread between your inner world and the outer one. And every tear has a cost. Relationships fracture. Energy leaks. Trust dies slowly at first, then all at once. Worst of all, the liar loses themselves. They become a person their soul no longer recognizes. Words, when misused, become curses we cast on our own path. But when spoken truthfully, they become instruments of clarity and connection. The ancients knew this. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, one of the soul's declarations before judgment is, "I have not told lies." That single phrase among 42 confessions carries spiritual weight equal to not killing or stealing. In Vedic rituals, truth is invoked before every offering. In the Quran, lying is described as one of the traits of hypocrisy, munafiq, the deepest spiritual disorder. Even in Native American traditions, the power of the spoken word is sacred. Lakota believe that speech is a bridge between worlds. A lie, then, is not just a broken promise, it's a breach between dimensions. So what can we take from all this? That language is not just communication, it's creation. When you speak, you are not just sharing thoughts, you are shaping reality. You're casting spells, whether you know it or not. Lies distort, truth aligns. And in a world addicted to performance, speaking with truth has become a radical act. This journey, then, is not just about being honest, it's about remembering the power of your word. It is about reclaiming language as a sacred tool, not to manipulate, but to build. The lie whispers, but so does the truth. And the one you choose to echo will shape the world you walk in. The flame that speaks. Words as vibration. If you've ever walked into a room and instantly sensed tension or felt peace before anyone said a word, they've already experienced the unseen power of vibration. Words are not just sound, they are energy. And energy, as both ancient traditions and modern science affirm, does not disappear. It transforms, it radiates, it shapes. In the beginning was the Word. That line from the Gospel of John is more than religious poetry. It's a statement about metaphysical architecture. Creation begins not with substance, but with vibration. This belief was not unique to Christianity. In Hindu cosmology, the primordial sound Om is considered the vibration from which the entire universe emanated. In Maori tradition, the world was sung into being. The ancient Mayans believed that God spoke creation into existence. In all these cultures, the spoken word wasn't a tool, it was a force. Modern physics offers a strange confirmation. Quantum field theory suggests that everything in the universe is made of vibrating fields, energy, and motion. What we perceive as solid is merely dense vibration. In that framework, words spoken sound are literal disruptions in the field of reality. This is not metaphor. This is law. Sound waves carry frequency. Frequency carries information. And information, when repeated, becomes reality. This is why propaganda works, why mantras work, why insults from childhood echo for decades. Words once released don't vanish. They embed themselves in the psyche, the body, the field. Masaru Emoto's water experiments, though controversial, tapped into this principle. When he exposed water crystals to positive words like love or gratitude, the resulting crystals were symmetrical and beautiful. Words like hate or fool produced chaotic, fragmented patterns. His critics challenged the methodology, but the message remains. Intention in language impacts form, and you are mostly water. Your body, your brain, your cells all vibrate, which means your words and the words spoken to you alter your structure. Think of that the next time you say, "I'm such an idiot." or nothing ever works out. You're not describing reality. You're programming it. This principle was deeply understood by ancient civilizations. In ancient Egypt, high priests used specific vibrational chants intonations considered too sacred for the uninitiated to invoke healing or divine contact. These were not casual sounds. They were formulas, believed to attune the physical body to the harmony of the stars. In Tibetan Buddhism, chanting mantras like Omi Mahoni Padma Hum is not merely devotional. It is vibrational alignment. Each syllable is associated with a chakra, a plane of consciousness, a subtle frequency. Over time, the repetition isn't just hadiths absorbed, integrated, embodied. In the Hebrew Kabbalistic tradition, the very name of God, spelled Yod, He Vav He, is not spoken in full because its utterance is believed to unleash powerful energetic consequences. The sacred tetragrammaton is vibration encoded as divine presence. To misuse it is not just profanity, it's dissonance against the order of the universe. This belief that words carry frequency is echoed in indigenous traditions worldwide. The Navajo chant prayers not just for healing but to re-establish what they call hazo, harmony, beauty, balance. In those traditions, language restores order. To speak truth is not to assert, is to align. And alignment is everything. When your words match your internal state, your emotions, your beliefs, your integrity, you are in coherence. When they do not, you produce dissonance. That dissonance is not abstract. It ripples. It affects mood, relationships, even physical health. The Institute of HeartMath has studied this in real time. When participants shift into states of gratitude or compassion and speak from those places, their heart rhythms become more coherent. Their brain waves synchronize. Stress hormones decrease. Immune response increases. So what happens when you lie? You fracture that coherence. You say one thing, but feel another. You project peace, but harbor resentment. The body picks up the contradiction. Muscles tighten, breath shortens, your energy field constricts. The nervous system flags danger, and all because your word vibrated inauthentically. This isn't just spiritual theory. It's emotional physics. Your voice is your tuning fork. Every word calibrates the frequency you broadcast. And that frequency, in turn, shapes what you attract, what you repel, and how your reality unfolds. This is why ancient initiates were trained in silence before speech. They had to purify their mind before their mouth. Because to speak was to shape, to utter was to command. Today, we have forgotten this. We speak to fill space. We joke cruelly. We lie politely. We self-deprecate for approval. And in doing so, we distort the field around us. We fill the air with low vibrations, disconnected from intention, disconnected from truth. But you can reverse this. You can choose to make your words sacred again. You can pause, feel, speak only what aligns. And in doing so, you begin to repair the frequency you walk in. The flame that speaks is not loud, does not shout, it resonates. And when you use your voice in truth, with clarity and intention, you reignite that ancient fire within yourself and the world. That is the power of vibration. And that is the responsibility of the word. The distortion field. What lies due to your energy lying is often seen as a moral issue, a matter of right or wrong, social expectation, or personal guilt. But what if the deeper consequence is energetic? What if every lie, no matter how small, disrupts the invisible field around you, the subtle architecture that governs your well-being, your clarity, your power? This isn't just philosophical speculation. It's been taught for millennia. In traditional Chinese medicine, the body is seen as an energetic system. Every organ corresponds not only to a function but to a virtue. The lungs, for example, govern grief. The liver, anger. But when it comes to speech, it's the throat, the gateway of expression, that is most sensitive to truth or its absence. Lying is believed to create chi stagnation at this center. That stagnation doesn't stay local. It ripples through the meridian system, weakening life force throughout the body. In the Vedic chakra system of India, the throat chakra, called Vishuddha, literally means purification. It is the energetic center of communication and truth. When we lie, this chakra constricts. Over time, Chronic distortion at this level leads to fatigue, confusion, and even physical illnesses. Sore throats, thyroid issues, jaw tension. These aren't random. They're energetic feedback. The ancient Greeks understood this too. The philosopher Plotinus described the soul as being made of light, with truth as its natural vibration. Lies, he claimed, were like shadows in water, disruptions that make reflection impossible. They don't just obscure the soul, they warp its ability to perceive clearly. Plato echoed this in his allegory of the cave. Those trapped in illusion who mistake shadow for truth are energetically bound. Only the turn toward light toward truth liberates. Modern science, surprisingly, doesn't contradict this. Functional MRI scans reveal that lying activates different regions of the brain than truth-telling. The prefrontal cortex works overtime to manage inconsistencies. The amygdala, the fear center spikes. Cortisol levels rise.
Over time.
Habitual liars show increased risk of anxiety disorders, insomnia, even heart disease. The body fights the lie as if it were a threat. Because two, the nervous system it is. Why? Because lying requires internal division. You hold one version of reality in your mind, while projecting another. This split between what you know and what you present creates dissonance. That dissonance leaks into every part of your being. Your breath, your muscle tone, your posture, your aura. The energy field that surrounds you, the same field photographed in Kirlian, imaging or felt by Reiki practitioners, becomes erratic. Instead of coherence, you radiate contradiction. This energetic distortion affects more than just your body. It affects your fate. In African spiritual traditions, like the Yoruba, there's a concept called ace, the power to make things happen through words, intention, and alignment. A person's ace is strengthened through integrity. When you lie, you fracture your ace. You weaken your capacity to influence reality because your vibration no longer matches your intention. You're out of sync. The universe responds in kind. The Native American Hopi tradition carries a similar teaching. Words are considered sacred. Speech is seen as an act of creation. A lie is not merely a social betrayal, it's a disruption in the balance of nature. The earth, in this worldview, does not just hear words, it feels them, and you feel them too. Have you ever told a lie and then felt tired, or anxious, or somehow off? That's not coincidence. That's energetic cost. The mystics of Sufism describe lies as veils. Every lie you tell places another layer between you and the divine. And the thicker the veil, the dimmer your inner light becomes. In the Quran, hypocrites, those who speak falsely while pretending truth, are described as people whose hearts are sealed. Their spiritual senses are dulled, not by punishment, but by consequence. Energetically, lying creates what might be called fragmentation. Your thoughts say one thing, your voice says another. Your heart hesitates, your gut clenches, nothing flows. Over time, this misalignment becomes a lifestyle. You begin to live from the outside in, performing roles, curating impressions. Losing touch with what you actually believe, feel, or want, become a ghost in your own life, present but disconnected. This is not just a metaphor. Disconnection is measurable. Heart rate variability drops. Brain-heart coherence collapses. You lose access to intuition, to creativity, to depth. Lying costs you access to your own power. But here's the truth beneath the truth. It's reversible. Every act of truth-telling, no matter how small, begins to restore coherence. It realigns the scattered pieces of your energy. Your breath deepens, your body softens, your field strengthens, begin to glow again, with performance, but with presence. This is why ancient initiates in the mystery schools were taught first to purify the word. Because only when your words align with your soul does your power return. Lies distort the field, but truth heals it. The spell you cast against yourself, most people don't think of words as magic. We treat them like tools used casually, sometimes carelessly, rarely with reverence. But words have always been more than just sounds. Nearly every ancient culture, to speak was to cast. To lie was to curse first and foremost, yourself. Let's go back. In Old English, the word spell meant both a story and an incantation. To spell something wasn't about letters, it was about shaping reality, The act of speaking carried power. Indigenous traditions all over the world, Mayan Dagara, Maori describes speech as a force of creation. What you speak, you summon. So what happens when you speak what is not true? You break that creation. You invert the intention. Cast a spell not for clarity, but confusion. Not for power, but fragmentation. And the first place that spell lands is inside your own psyche. In the Hermetic tradition, Hermes Trismegistus taught that the mind is a mirror of the cosmos. What is spoken from the mind reflects into the world. This isn't poetic, it's mechanical. Speech doesn't follow thought. Speech reinforces thought. When you let even just a little you, embed that distortion deeper into your mental pattern. In other words, the more you lie, the easier it becomes. Not because it's safer, but because you've altered the circuitry of your inner world, and the consequences follow. Lies fracture the alignment between your thought, your word, and your action. This trinity thought word deed is sacred across cultures. In Zoroastrianism, it's called Humata, Hukta, Varsta. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. In Buddhism, it's right intention, right speech, right action. Cross traditions, it's the same truth. Harmony requires coherence. Break that coherence, and you pay the price in confusion, exhaustion, and disempowerment. Because every time you lie, you're not just misleading someone else. You're telling your nervous system that truth is dangerous. You're training your subconscious to doubt itself. Over time, your sense of inner direction becomes foggy. Intuition fades. Self-trust erodes. This is not metaphor, it's biology. Studies in behavioral neuroscience show that lying activates multiple regions of the brain associated with memory, inhibition, and decision-making. The more often you lie, the more these areas adapt. Brain scans reveal that repeated lying desensitizes the amygdala, the part of the brain that registers moral discomfort. In simpler terms, you stop feeling the wrongness. And here's where it gets dangerous. When your internal compass is broken, you become manipulable. Outwardly, you may seem confident, but internally, you're guessing. You're performing a version of yourself that no longer reflects your core. And when your words don't reflect your truth, they lose creative power. They no longer summon reality, they scatter it. In ancient Egypt, this idea was deeply embedded in spiritual practice. The negative confession from the Book of the Dead includes the line, "I have not spoken lies." It's not because lies offend the gods, but because they misalign the soul. In that tradition, to lie was to desecrate your own spiritual field. Truth was not a preference, it was a path of spiritual precision. In indigenous African cosmologies, the spoken word called Namo in Dogon traditional is life force. Words not rooted in truth are considered spiritually empty. They may sound loud, but they have no weight in the invisible world. A lie, then, is not just false, it is powerless. Worse, it steals power from the speaker, because every lie costs you energy. Not just in hiding the truth, but in maintaining the illusion. Your nervous system stays on alert. If your mind rehearses, backtracks, defends, this creates energetic drag. If you become tired not from activity, but from inauthenticity. Chronic liars often report fatigue, anxiety, shallow breathing, and muscle tension. It's the price of maintaining a false field. And yet, society rewards lying. We lie to be polite, to impress, to avoid confrontation. Over time, we stop noticing, but our bodies notice. Our relationships notice. Our dreams shrink. Our voices lose edge. And we wonder why we feel disconnected from purpose. It's because we've cast a spell against our own becoming. But here's the truth beneath the truth. You don't need to keep casting it. The antidote is as old as the curse. Speak truth. It's not just to others, but to yourself, especially to yourself. Radical honesty spoken softly becomes the turning point. When your words reflect your inner knowing, your field strengthens. You begin to trust yourself again. Your intuition returns. Energy flows where integrity leads. This is why the sages always spoke less but said more. Because when your word aligns with your soul, it carries weight. It heals instead of harms. It builds instead of breaks. Words are spells, and you are the magician. Question is, what kind of magic are you making? The collective web. How lies shape the world. Most people assume lies are private, internal, harmless if no one finds out. But that assumption is wrong and dangerously naive. Lies do not stay local. Like ripples in a pond, they move outward. First through relationship, then through community, then eventually into the collective field of consciousness itself. This is not abstract mysticism. It's energetic reality, truth understood across time, culture, and philosophy. In the West African IFA tradition, there is a concept called ash, the life force of speech. When one speaks truthfully, ash flows smoothly, communities stay in harmony. But lies are believed to create ajogen, or chaotic forces, energetic disruptions that bring misfortune not just to the liar, but to the village. In this worldview, integrity is not personal, it is communal infrastructure. Ancient Greek society, too, was built on a collective ethic of speech. Plato warned that lies, especially when institutionalized, would erode the soul of the polis, the city. He called falsehood the seed of tyranny. When leaders lie, the city becomes sick. The fabric of public trust unravels. Once broken, it is nearly impossible to repair. In the East, Confucius emphasized rectification of names, the idea that words must match reality. If a ruler is not righteous but still called king, the moral order collapses. Why? Because people begin to distrust language. And when language loses meaning, society loses orientation. Sound familiar? We are living in an age of distortion, fake news, marketing spin, political performance. Censorship dressed as curation. It's no longer just that lies exist, it's that we are swimming in them, saturated. And the result is collective dissonance, anxiety, division, hypervigilance. People can feel that something is off, even if they can't always name it. And that's the real danger. Because lies do more than mislead, they disconnect. When you lie to another person, and subtly you create a fracture in the energetic bridge between you. It might not be visible, but it's felt. A chill in the room, a hesitation in the eye, a delay in trust. Over time, these micro-fractures accumulate into walls, families drift, friends fall out, communities polarize. Now multiply that across millions. What you get is a society where people don't trust each other, not because of facts, but because of feeling. Because their nervous systems have been trained to expect betrayal, to brace, to doubt. And where there is doubt, connection dies. This is why ancient cultures treated truth as sacred. In the Maori tribes of New Zealand, the word pono means both truth and rightness. It is not just a private virtue, it is a social glue. The community maintains balance through collective honesty. Dishonesty is not just frowned upon. It is feared as a kind of spiritual disease, one that spreads invisibly. Even in Norse mythology, the god Loki, known for lies and manipulation, was not merely a trickster. He was a destabilizer. His deception didn't just cause conflict, it led to Ragnarok's the end of the world. The myth suggests a warning that lies, when unchecked, become systems. And when systems are built on lies, collapse is inevitable. Modern science points to a similar reality. Social trust, according to countless psychological studies, is the foundation of thriving communities. When people believe their neighbors, institutions, and leaders are honest, they cooperate more, contribute more, and experience higher well-being. But when trust erodes, whether through media distortion or personal betrayal, people withdraw, they isolate, they defend. Eventually, the collective field fragments. And this fragmentation is more than emotional. It is energetic. The heart has an electromagnetic field measurable several feet beyond the body. When people are in coherence, meaning their thoughts, emotions, and values align, their fields interact positively with others. It's called social resonance. But when lies dominate, the fields become erratic. Instead of harmony, you get static, disconnection. So what can be done? We begin by recognizing that truth is not a private act. It is a public service. Every time you speak with honesty, even when it's hard, you repair part of the web. You bring coherence back into the field. You become a tuning fork for reality, reminding others what clarity feels like. In Buddhist teachings, the concept of right speech includes abstaining from falsehood, not just for moral reasons, but because truth maintains harmony in the Sangha, the community of practitioners. Lies are like poison in the water. Even one drop affects the whole pool. In the Navajo tradition, healing ceremonies involve not just the individual, but the whole tribe. Because when one person is out of balance, the whole field tilts. Truth, then, is medicine. Not just for the self, but for the whole. And today, perhaps more than ever, the world needs that medicine. Guess the real war is not between left and right, rich and poor, old and young. It is between what is true and what is not. And the battlefield is your voice, your word, your willingness to speak from clarity, even in a fog of distortion. One honest voice can begin to recalibrate an entire room, a family, a community, a generation. And when enough voices rise in resonance, the web heals. Healing through the return healing doesn't begin with a spotlight, it begins in the dark, in silence. In the moment you realize the noise in your life, the anxiety, the burnout, the disconnection is not random. It's the echo of a long-held lie. Not necessarily the kind you told someone else, but the one you told yourself. That you're fine, that you don't care, that success will bring peace, that love is weakness, that you can carry this without consequence. But the body keeps score, and so does the soul. Across cultures, the path of healing always begins with return. Return to balance, return to nature, return to truth. And truth, despite all the noise of modern life, is never far. It lives in the quiet, waiting for you to look in its direction. In ancient Taoism, this return is described as wu-wei, effortless action, not laziness but flow, a state where life moves not because you push harder, but because you stop pushing against what is. Wu-wei doesn't mean do nothing. It means stop doing the thing that keeps you misaligned. Stop speaking words you don't believe. Stop agreeing to stories that make you smaller. Stop resisting the simplicity of truth. This was not a uniquely Eastern idea. In the mystery schools of Egypt, initiates were taught that every soul has a blueprint, a unique energetic pattern of truth. Illness and suffering arise when we drift from that pattern. Healing, then, is not invention. It is remembering, realigning, returning. In Hindu cosmology, the concept of satya means more than honesty. It means being in accord with reality. To live in satya is to vibrate at the same frequency as existence itself. This alignment creates clarity, vitality, and peace, not as rewards but as natural results. And in Native American traditions, especially among the Lakota, healing ceremonies often begin with confession, not as shame, but as reconnection. The lie is seen as a broken thread. Speaking the truth is how the spiritual fabric is mended. Even in modern psychology, this return has a name: congruence. Carl Rogers, one of the founders of humanistic therapy, said healing happens when your inner world and outer expression match. When what you feel, what you believe, and what you say finally speak the same language. But that alignment requires radical honesty, not brutal, not performative, just clear. It means facing the places where you've drifted, where you've traded your voice for approval, your boundaries for belonging, your silence for safety. It means admitting what you've known all along. That lying even subtly costs more than it saves, because every lie pulls you further from your essence, and every truth brings you back. This is why the Sufis describe truth not just as virtue, but as medicine. In their language, the word hakaka means ultimate reality. The closer you move to it, the more your illusions fall away. And while that process may sting, it also purifies. The fire of truth doesn't burn you. It burns what you're not. So how do you begin? Not with a grand declaration, but with a whisper, a question. Where right now are you pretending? And what would happen if you stopped? You don't need to fix everything at once. You don't need to confess to anyone but yourself. The first step is simply to notice. To name the places where your speech no longer fits your spirit, where your story doesn't match your sensation, where your yes is really a no, and speak. Say one true thing today, even if it's small, even if it's just, I don't know, or that hurt, or I'm tired of pretending. Each truth clears the field. Each word repairs the thread. Over time, truth becomes your default, not because you fear lying, but because your body remembers how good it feels to be aligned, how peaceful, how powerful. And that's when healing becomes transformation. Not just the easing of symptoms, but the rising of spirit. You begin to move differently, speak differently. You no longer chase energy, you carry it. You no longer seek permission, You stand in conviction. You no longer fear being seen, you invite it. Because when you live in truth, you have nothing to hide, nothing to defend, nothing to prove. You simply are. And that, across every tradition, every lineage, every age, has always been the real miracle, not walking on water, but walking in truth. The return doesn't end with healing. It begins there. The door that opens again at the beginning of this journey, we asked a simple but unsettling question. How many lies have you told today? After moving through the ancient echoes of language, the physiology of energy, the mechanics of trust, and the quiet art of healing, we arrive not at a conclusion but at a return. The door, once symbolic, now stands before you again. But something's different. It is no longer locked. The handle is warm. The silence on the other side isn't empty. It's waiting. Because this was never a journey away from the self. It was a return. In nearly every spiritual tradition, the idea of returning carries sacred weight. In the Torah, teshuvah means repentance, but it also means to return. Not to guilt, but to essence. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu writes, returning is the motion of the Tao. Life flows not forward in conquest, but inward in remembrance. In the ancient Egyptian book of Coming Forth by Day what we now call the Book of the Dead, the soul. Journey through the underworld was indeed about punishment. It was about restoration. To speak truth, to align word with essence, was to pass through the trials and emerge reborn. The soul returned not to who it was, but to who it had always been beneath illusion. This is the door you now stand before. But unlike myths of judgment and separation, this return is not about being good, it's about being real. It's not about earning light, but removing what blocks it. Because the light never left. Truth isn't something you find, it's something you stop denying. This is why in Buddhism, the final stage of awakening is not attainment stripping away. The word for enlightenment Bodha means to awaken. It's not to become new, but to remember the truth that was already there. That's what this door represents. Not the entrance to another world, but the re-entry to your own, now seen clearly. So what do you bring back? You bring back your voice, unmasked and unafraid. You bring back presence, the ability to sit with reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. You bring back discernment, knowing the cost of distortion, and choosing coherence instead. And most importantly, you bring back reverence. For the word, for silence, for the space between them. In native Hawaiian tradition, Ho'oponopono is the practice of reconciliation, not just between people, but within. The process begins with truth-telling, naming what is out of alignment. Only then can harmony be restored. The word itself means to make right again. And that is what this return allows. Not perfection, but integrity. You don't emerge from this journey with all the answers. You emerge with better questions. What do I know to be true? Or have I been silent? What would it look like to speak again, not to perform, but to connect? These aren't rhetorical. They're invitations, because the return is not passive. It's participatory. In the traditions of the Andes, when a person feels lost, the elder might say, return to your mountain. It means come back to your center. Your truth, your word, you are the mountain now. The stillness you've touched, the clarity you've remembered, the energy you've reclaimed, it's yours to carry into the world. Not to preach, but to practice, not to fix others, but to walk in such a way that your very presence reminds them they can return to. This is why the door must open again, because others will stand before it, wondering if they're ready, wondering if they're worthy, wondering if the cost of truth is too high. When they do, your life rooted in alignment, alive in word, becomes the silent answer. Yes, it's time. It's safe. You can come home. Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But that privilege comes with responsibility, not to be flawless, but to be honest. To speak truth even when your voice shakes. To live truth even when the world profits from lies. So we return to the breath, to the body, to the word. Not the loudest one in the room, but the one that rings true. And as you step through this door again and again and again, remember, truth isn't a destination, it's a direction. And the journey doesn't end. It deepens.